What happens when a secret love threatens to destroy one of the most powerful families in the South? Imagine a young woman, heir to a great fortune, standing in the shadows of her family's grand plantation. She has everything: wealth, beauty, the respect of her community. But in her heart, she holds a dangerous secret, one that could cost her everything. That secret is not gold. It is not land. It is love. Love for a man society called her inferior. Love for someone her family claimed as property. This is the story of the Beauregard dynasty scandal. A story whispered in the back rooms of Charleston, in the corridors of power, and among the enslaved who knew that even the walls of the master's house could not silence human desire. It is a story of a Southern heiress who broke every rule, risked her life, and gave birth to a child with a man who was enslaved. Her name? Camille Beauregard, the radiant daughter of a dynasty that ruled with iron and charm. His name? Erased by history, silenced in the records, but alive in memory. This affair would shatter reputations, ignite whispers of betrayal, and leave a stain on a family that claimed honor above all else. But this is not just their scandal. This is a window into a society built on lies, where power tried to control love, and where even the most daring heart could not escape the iron chains of slavery. So, what truly happened behind the closed doors of the Beauregard estate? Stay with me. The truth is stranger and more haunting than the rumors. To understand this scandal, we must first step back into the world of the early 1800s, South Carolina. A land of rice swamps, cotton fields, and sprawling plantations. Charleston glittered with wealth. Slave markets bustled, where human lives were bought and sold as casually as tobacco or sugar. The Beauregards were among the richest families. Their name carried weight in politics and society. But life on a plantation was more than the grand houses people saw from the outside. Behind the white columns and polished floors were hundreds of enslaved men, women, and children. They labored under the scorching sun, bent over cotton rows until their backs ached. They cooked the family's meals, rocked the master's babies, cleaned the rooms, and built the wealth that gave the Beauregards their power. The air was thick with contradictions. At dinner tables, white families boasted of honor, purity, and tradition. Yet at night, those same families often broke every rule they preached. Enslaved women were vulnerable to exploitation. Enslaved men lived under constant suspicion, their smallest gesture twisted into imagined rebellion. And yet, within this brutal system, enslaved people resisted. Some resisted quietly, by teaching each other to read, by singing coded songs, by passing messages through quilts and whispers. Others resisted with bold escapes or even open rebellion. This was the world Camille Beauregard grew up in. A world that told her she must guard her purity, marry well, and preserve the family's reputation. For women of her class, the rules were iron, but desire does not bow to rules. In this landscape of oppression and hypocrisy, a love story unfolded, dangerous, forbidden, and powerful enough to shake the Beauregard name. Camille Beauregard was not just any woman. She was the daughter of one of South Carolina's most powerful dynasties. She grew up in luxury, satin gowns, silver cutlery, marble floors. But behind the grandeur, she lived in a cage of expectations. Family expected her to marry a wealthy planter or politician, to guard her reputation like a crown, to never step outside the lines drawn for her. But Camille's heart wandered. In the evenings, when the house quieted and the cicadas hummed outside, she would walk the halls. That's when she noticed him. An enslaved man who worked close to the house, strong, steady, with a quiet dignity. He carried himself differently from the others. His eyes met hers, not with fear, not with submission, but with something she had never seen before. Truth. We do not know his real name. Records were erased, as they often were, to protect the powerful. But let us imagine him as he might have been perhaps called Samuel in the ledgers, though his true African name, whispered only among his people, was far older. At first, their encounters were brief. A glance across the courtyard. A moment in the kitchen when hands brushed while passing a dish. Then came whispers in shadowed hallways, words stolen between duty and danger. For Camille, it was intoxicating. For Samuel, it was peril. One false move, and he could be whipped, sold, or killed. Yet he did not turn away. Love grew like a hidden fire. There were signals. A dropped handkerchief. A candle left burning in a window. A humming tune that carried meaning only to them. Each act was a risk. Each meeting could be their last. And yet, within this secret world, they found freedom. He told her stories of his mother's songs, of rivers he dreamed of crossing, of a life beyond chains. She listened, and for the first time in her life, she questioned the world she had been born into. But whispers began to stir. A maid noticed her lingering too long in the kitchens. A cousin caught a look that lasted a second too long. Rumors, in a family like the Beauregards, were as deadly as knives. Still, Camille pressed on. And soon, their secret would grow too large to hide. Months later, Camille could no longer conceal it. Beneath her gowns, a secret swelled. She was carrying Samuel's child. In the rigid world of the South. This was not just a scandal, it was a catastrophe. A white heiress, pregnant by an enslaved man. It threatened everything. Her family's honor, their wealth, their political standing. If discovered, it could destroy them all. Camille's world became a maze of lies. She claimed illness to avoid gatherings. She wore looser gowns, stayed in shadowed rooms. Only her closest maid knew the truth. Meanwhile, Samuel lived each day with dread. Enslaved men accused of relations with white women often faced lynching or brutal punishment. One slip, one rumor confirmed, and his life would end violently. At night, they whispered plans. Could they run? Could they hide the child? Could they somehow survive in a world that wanted them destroyed? Every sound in the hallway felt like a threat. Every creak of the floorboards carried the weight of danger. Then, one evening, Camille's mother grew suspicious. She confronted her daughter, demanding answers. Camille denied it, but her trembling voice betrayed her. The mother's eyes narrowed. She knew. The family began watching her every move. Samuel was reassigned to distant work, kept away from the house. But distance could not erase what already lived within her. As Camille's belly grew, so did the tension. Servants whispered. Guests noticed her absence. The Beauregard name was at risk of ruin. And then, in the dead of night, Camille gave birth in secrecy. A child half white, half black, a living symbol of forbidden love. Now the true danger began. The cries of the newborn pierced the night. The midwife wrapped the child quickly, whispering for silence. But secrets are fragile things. The family knew. The Beauregards faced a choice: hide the child or destroy their own reputation. For Camille, there was no choice at all. She loved her baby fiercely. But for the family, the child was a scandal that must disappear. Rumors spread beyond the plantation. Neighbors whispered. Charleston society raised eyebrows. And for a family whose power depended on honor, the scandal was poisoned. Camille begged. She wept. She swore she would never leave her child. But her pleas fell on cold ears. In the shadows, Samuel plotted desperately. He knew they would take the baby. He knew the family might sell him far away, or worse. So he prepared. On a stormy night, when lightning split the sky, he slipped into the house. He moved like a shadow, past guards, past sleeping children. His heart pounded as he reached the room where his newborn lay. Camille was waiting. Tears streaked her face as she placed the baby in his arms. "Go," she whispered. "Save him. Save our child." Every second was danger. Every step echoed like thunder. Behind him, Camille stayed, knowing her life would be ruined, but hoping that her sacrifice might save the boy. The storm swallowed his footsteps as Samuel vanished into the night, carrying the future in his arms. What happened next was buried in half-truths and silence. Some say Samuel escaped north, carrying his child to freedom through the secret routes of the Underground Railroad. Others whisper he found refuge with Maroons in the swamps, where communities of escaped slaves lived hidden from white eyes. As for Camille, she paid the price. Her family cast her aside, her name spoken only with shame. She lived in shadow, remembered not for her beauty or her wealth, but for the scandal that destroyed the Beauregard dynasty's spotless mask. The Beauregards would continue in politics and plantations, their wealth intact, but their dynasty forever marked by whispers of disgrace. And what of the child? History does not tell us. Perhaps he grew under a new name, his mother's sacrifice hidden in his blood. Perhaps his descendants walk among us still, carrying the unspoken legacy of love that defied chains. What we know is this: one woman, raised in privilege, chose love over fear. One enslaved man risked everything for his child. And together, they shook the walls of a family that thought itself untouchable. The Beauregard scandal is more than just a forbidden romance. It is a mirror. It shows us the cracks in a system built on cruelty. It reveals the hypocrisy of men who preached honor while hiding secrets. And it reminds us that even in the darkest times, love could not be chained. We may never know the full truth of Camille and Samuel's story. History tried to erase it. The records were scrubbed, the names forgotten. But the whispers survived. The rumors endured. And behind every rumor lies a seed of truth. This tale asks us, what would you risk for love? What would you sacrifice for freedom? For Camille, it was her reputation. For Samuel, it was his life. For their child, it was a chance, just a chance, at a different future. And that is why we tell this story. Not to shame, but to remember. To remember that even within a world of chains, people dared to defy. To remember that the fight for dignity has always burned, even in the most unlikely hearts. The Beauregard fields may have turned to dust. The great house may have crumbled. But the courage of a mother and father who risked everything lives on in memory. And perhaps, somewhere in the veins of America, the blood of their child still flows. Because love, no matter how forbidden, leaves a mark that time cannot erase.